Guys, I am going to break down what was an absolute crazy big noon game. Ohio State beating Penn State, and somehow we arrived at the score 44-31. Again, there's another game just like last week with Ohio State. How does Ohio State get to 44 points? You know, JT Tuimoloau, a generational defensive performance. That's a Heisman-type performance for JTT with, you know, I think 2 sacks, a pick six, a fumble recovery, a strip sack, 3 tackles for loss. Just crazy. I'm going to go through everything, give my instant reaction. And guys, wow, I was very disappointed in Ryan Day and the overall play calling and the unwillingness to really adapt to what Penn State was doing to Ohio State. It became very apparent early in the second quarter in this game, Ohio State was simply not going to be able to run the ball. Mayan Williams, the one running back for Ohio State, who had that nice touchdown run where he kind of bulldozed into the end zone. They reviewed it. He has another nice little run on like 2nd and 6, last play of the first quarter. He gets injured on the sideline. I thought he got the damn first down. Apparently he didn't. So it's 3rd and 1 to start the second quarter. They give it to Trevion. He gets stuffed. So if I would have opened up the offense a lot sooner than Ryan Day. It seems like Ryan Day has a tendency to try and be almost overbalanced. We hear coaches say they want to be balanced. They want to run the football. Well, that's good and all, you know, until you have a game like this and you've got a receiver like Marvin Harrison Jr. Anytime you threw Marvin Harrison Jr. the football, good things were happening. And Emeka Egbuka, I know he didn't have the best game, but to me, he needs more targets. Julian Fleming needs more targets. If you have to abandon the run to win the game because the way they're playing you, they've got 8 stacked in the box, you got to throw the football. You've got CJ Stroud, and then guys, how about with 6 seconds left before the half, I'm shocked because CJ Stroud really hasn't been in these kind of clock management situations very much in his career. I'm shocked Day didn't just pull the plug and kick the field goal with 6 seconds left. But I think that's horrible coaching by Ohio State because if you're Ryan Day, you have to make sure CJ Stroud knows with no timeouts, there's 6 seconds left, there's no ability to pump the ball. You don't have time to pump fake. There's 6 seconds left. You have to, it's a hitch, and I would have done a quick back shoulder fastball to Marvin Harrison Jr. Would have been my play call. It looked like they were trying to go to either Egbuka or someone on the left side. Harrison was on the right side. I don't know, maybe Harrison was getting double teamed, but James Franklin, I mean, how about that one Penn State drive in the 3rd quarter? Guys, the one Penn State drive, 3rd and 15, I think it was J.K. Johnson. What? Oh, yeah, JTT gets the sack on Clifford. It's 3rd and 15. This is like right at the start of the 4th quarter. Ohio State is about to pull away. Oh, my goodness, that pass interference. Sean Clifford is literally hoping and praying. The only thing Sean Clifford is doing by throwing a YOLO ball up on 3rd and 15 is to draw off pass interference. And if you're J.K. Johnson, if you're the Ohio State coaches, you have to tell him, listen, don't grab him. It's 3rd and 15. They're desperate. That's what they want you to do. There was no chance that ball was going to be completed, but because J.K. Johnson literally tackled the Penn State receiver, that gets called. So very disappointed in Ryan Day's play calling. I thought if you have to abandon the run to win the game, you needed to do it. Ohio State saved by turnovers for sure, especially in the first half. Penn State, I thought, should have built at least around a 7-point lead. That would have been really big for them, but Ohio State with those 2 early turnovers, the interceptions for Clifford, I thought a little concerning there. Sean Clifford's final numbers were, I know they had the garbage time touchdown, I get it, but guys, Sean Clifford against this Ohio State defense, 371 passing yards. That's no bueno. That is not good. Penn State really not running the ball well. Allen, the running. Ohio State kind of struggled with tackling in this game. That's the other thing we kind of could see. But Parker Washington, my God, did he own Ohio State's secondary throughout the entire game. And then for Ohio State, they got shut down again running the football. Of course, Trevion Henderson breaking loose for that 41-yard touchdown. That's going to save their stats, so he ends up with 16 carries for 78 yards, an average of 5. Take away that 41-yard run, and there's nothing there. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes 10 for 185. Joel Klatt did say it. I agree with him. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point, with what's happened to JSN possibly being out for maybe he might be done with Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. is turning into the best receiver in college football. Anytime you throw him the ball, good things are happening. Cade Stover, kind of a weird game. Didn't really the 2-point conversion situation was very odd to me. So a few things. Number one, I believe that's a neutral zone infraction when the defensive lineman comes over and it triggers an offensive player to jump. It's a neutral zone infraction because the defensive player is crossing the line, which is triggering an offensive player. It happened twice, and they called it false starts both time, and neither Joel Klatt or Gus Johnson said anything about it. But I think that's that it should have been the 2-point conversion should have been from the half-yard line, or from the 1.5-yard line, I think, because it's half the distance, but they called it a false start. And then Ryan Day, I mean, this is just a message to Ryan Day. If you're up 36-24, it doesn't matter that there's a false start. Kicking the extra point does nothing with 3 minutes left in the game. The only way Penn State can come back is scoring 2 touchdowns. That's it. There's no combination of a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and a field goal when you're up 12 points. So even if you're from the 8-yard line and you don't think you're going to get the 2-point conversion, kicking the extra point does nothing. I know there were some people that were pissed that Ohio State didn't cover, but guys, I mean, can we be honest about it? Ohio State had no business covering that 15.5-point spread. It looked like they were going to lose this game, like with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So I know people were kind of mad about that, but the big things here, Cade Stover. How about the screen passes? I don't know what that is. It's just, it got to the point where it was like, is Ryan Day trolling us with the amount of screen passes? It's disgusting. I mean, my God, the middle of the field is wide open, play after play after play. You have to keep throwing the ball to the middle of the field, and then when Penn State finally adjusts their defense and plays their linebackers back, then you throw the screen passes when they start playing more off. I understand Cade Stover missed 2 blocks. Otherwise, it might have been big plays on that screen pass. I get it was a look that Ryan Day was seeing, and that's why it's called. But still, it was down after down. They weren't able to get anything on those screen passes. Julian Fleming, a quiet game, but he did have an unbelievable play. C.J. Stroud with an absolutely ill-advised deep throw that really should have been lofted into him. Julian Fleming ends up breaking up an interception, so he had a good play there. Abuka ends up with 6 catches for 53 yards due to basically him getting 4 screens and losing yards on all of them. And the overall yardage, it is pretty remarkable. Penn State outgains Ohio State. Now, some of that is due to the garbage time touchdown. They got about 70 garbage yards, but still the overall yardage was even. Ohio State was a little bit more efficient than Penn State, but not by much. This game was dictated and decided by turnovers. And for Ohio State, we do this thing where we compare how did Michigan do against Iowa versus Ohio State against Iowa? How did Ohio State do against Penn State versus Michigan? I don't think that stuff works, guys. I just think it's a situation where I said coming into this week, I thought Ohio State had a real chance to lose this game. And Ryan Day did them no favors. I mean, I feel like if Ryan Day adjusts the overall strategy, like you would think at halftime, but they came out in the third quarter and ran the ball twice for nothing and set up a 3rd and long. But if Ryan Day adjusted his strategy and just said, screw it, we're throwing the ball until they can stop it, I do think Ohio State, this is probably a lot easier of a game and not a game where you're really sweating going into the fourth quarter. I mean, you're looking at a situation where, according to ESPN FPI, Penn State, with around 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, is at a 60% chance to win. So, and again, the final score is what it is. JTT with the pick 6. Trevion Henderson with the 40-yard touchdown. That kind of, Abuka with the long catch down to the 1. That kind of made it, the score look like a bigger Ohio State victory. But this was a very competitive game, and Penn State, they always do it. They always give Ohio State a battle no matter what. Again, I don't think Michigan fans are going to say, well, Ohio State struggles, we're better than them. Listen, I said Ohio State was going to struggle coming into this game. you need to calm down, okay? College football, it's different week to week. I still think Ohio State beats Michigan fairly easily at home in the last game of the regular season. And if you're Penn State, you're still going to be ranked for sure. You know, you're sitting at 6-2. You win out. Very easy. 4 games remaining on their schedule. You're 10-2, and you're in a New Year's Six Bowl. I would expect Michigan to make the Rose Bowl. I would maybe Michigan makes the playoff with Ohio State if they only have 1 loss. But if you're Penn State, I mean, Sean Clifford, that was a great game. I will say, again, that one drive from Penn State. So you had the 3rd and 15 pass interference. You had the cluster down in the end zone where it's 4th and 1. James Franklin says, all right, we'll kick the field goal. You get the false start when the kicker misses the field goal. So they set it back. It's like, wow, what a false start for Penn State. What a break. The kid missed it again, but Ohio State was blocking the center, or they did something with the center, so they go back to 4th and 1 because that's a 5-yard penalty after missing 2 kicks that evidently didn't even count. And then they go for it on 4th and 1, barely get it. Then they almost score a touchdown, but they fumble near the end zone. They recover it at the 1-yard line, and then it's 4th and goal. Tommy Eichenberg misses a tackle in the backfield. Otherwise, Ohio State would have stopped it. They get a touchdown on that drive. So that was a very lucky drive for Penn State. How about Penn State fumbling the opening kickoff of the second half and getting back on it? Penn State's got to hold on to the football. It's too many turnovers for them. But, I mean, you take a look at the fourth quarter of this game. It was 28-17 in the fourth quarter. So 45 total points in the fourth quarter. And once again, we get a big noon game that is just dragging on. I mean, these things are marathons. These things are like, it's like you're reading a 300-page book when you watch a big noon football game. That's how bad it is. But my instant takeaways, I think C.J. Stroud at this point, he is what he is. If you give him time, he's unbelievable. If he gets hit, he puckers up. That's what C.J. Stroud is at this point. He did run a few times, you know, towards the sideline. He got a few yards. There were people that were saying in the second half he was kind of running for no reason, like there was no one around him and he would just sneak for 2 yards. I'd have to look back and see if there was much of a pass rush. But I thought C.J. Stroud, I mean, listen, you know, the clock management is an issue. And Joel Klatt was getting pissed because C.J. Stroud really doesn't understand. You should, like, personally, I don't care. I like Ohio State scoring as many points as possible. But yes, if we're in a situation where it's the playoffs or it's against Michigan, make sure you let the play clock, run down to 2 or 1. You got to let every second run off the clock when you face some of these better offenses. It can work against Sean Clifford. And that's no shot at Sean Clifford. You know, he played a great game. The turnovers killed him. But how about Parker Washington as well? I'm very concerned about Ohio State's secondary. There's just nobody that's stepping up right now. Denzel Burke, it felt like he had a little bit better of a game. It seemed like they went zone for much of the second half. Ohio State did. But again, if you've got Sean Clifford throwing for 380 yards, that raises some red flags, you would have to think. So overall, this is pretty much what I expected. I had this game at 36-27. So there were a few more touchdowns, and I think they were kind of fluky. I mean, the pick six, at the end of the game, whatever, things like that. So a 13-point margin could have very easily been closer. Again, guys, this was a game going into the fourth quarter, but it is a situation where this is college football. You're on the road. It's a noon start time. You're facing a good team. They've got the crowd into it. Penn State, I said they matched up really well with Ohio State. Would I move Ohio State to number 1 after this performance? I'd have to see how Tennessee does tonight. That's what I would say. I'd have to see how Tennessee does. If Tennessee struggles, I'd have to see what the metrics say. But guys, a lot of people don't know this. Notre Dame crushed Syracuse, which is indirectly going to help Ohio State's metrics significantly because that win over Notre Dame is going to be viewed better. Now, Notre Dame is not going to be ranked because they lost to Stanford a few weeks ago, but that Notre Dame win over Syracuse is going to indirectly help Ohio State. So we'll see what Georgia does. They're playing right now. I think they're 22-point favorites right now. Oh my goodness, this Miami-Virginia game's in 4 overtimes. It's 12-12. How is that even possible? Georgia is already winning, so we do have games going on right now. It's going to be fun to react, but just wanted to give my quick analysis here. So Penn State, you know, you've got to feel bad for them because they've been in this situation so many times where they're so close to beating Ohio State and it's just not happening. I think next year it's going to be tough because now you have to go to Columbus. You know, even though you have a more talented quarterback, the 5-star Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, you know, surprised he didn't get a ton of carries, but Allen was good. Ohio State was definitely having problems tackling him. Ohio State secondary is an issue. The defensive line is unbelievable. I don't know why Tyleik Williams isn't playing more. Tyleik Williams should be playing 70 to 75% of the snaps. JTT should be playing as many downs as possible. Michael Hall should be playing as many downs as possible. And Zach Harrison. I mean, the defensive line right now for Ohio State, it's amazing. The linebackers, it was a bad game from Eichenberg, but he's been good. You know, and then the secondary is the real issue for the Buckeyes. So we will see. But Ohio State, I think overall my number one concern is Ryan Day's obsession with the run game. I think it's a situation where first and foremost you have to win the game. You cannot worry about being balanced. Okay, if you have to throw the ball 50 times to win the game, you've got to throw the ball 50 times. It is what it is. The first objective is not to be balanced. The first objective is to win the game. Against Rutgers, you can practice the run game. You can go ahead and run the ball 3 times, and if you have to punt, you have to punt. You can't do it at Penn State. And to me, it cost Ohio State multiple times, you know, multiple drives early in the football game where you see it doesn't happen. Go away from it. Penn State has 8 men in the box. You're running the ball on a 3rd and 3. That's inexcusable when you've got C.J. Stroud, who's probably going to be a top 5 pick, when you've got Marvin Harrison Jr., Abuka. You know, even without JSN, this receiver room is so unbelievable. So, guys, I would say the main story is Marvin Harrison Jr., superstar receiver. Ohio State does what they need to do, but there's some major concern about Ryan Day's unwillingness to adapt and really make adjustments. I thought he was going to make the adjustments at halftime, and then they came out the second half running the ball. And it's like, dude, it's just not happening. You're going to lose this team the game. Now, Ohio State got lucky with turnovers, but I don't know. I think we'll see. Ohio State is going to be undefeated going into the Michigan game. I don't know where the playoff committee will put them. We're going to have to see how their resume looks after today. I don't know if Toledo ended up winning, and then there were some other, I mean, Notre Dame winning is big. Penn State is going to stay, I would say, probably inside the top 18 at the lowest. They might actually move up, honestly, because to me, Penn State played great. The turnovers killed them. And let's be honest, late in that game, Ryan Day finally did what everyone was saying he should have done. Really, in the second quarter and the third quarter, when it became apparent, just throw the football. If Penn State is not going to get, if you're facing Ohio State, you have to ruin 3 or 4 drives with your pass rush, and Penn State wasn't able to do it. Now, Penn State did a good job in the first half with the pass rush, but it withered away. They were getting tired, and when that happens, you've got Marvin Harrison Jr. running across the middle of the field for gaping gains. We're talking 20-yard pitch and catches, wide open, easiest stuff ever. That's a lot easier than running the ball up the middle in a 7 or an 8-man box, and you're getting 2 yards or you're losing a yard. And now you have to deal with the Mayan Williams injury, because it looked like Mayan Williams, not that he was going to take over the game, but I'm guessing Mayan Williams was going to get tons of carries, because Trevion came out in the first quarter and really struggled. But they had to stick with Trevion with Mayan Williams getting injured. So Penn State does outgain Ohio State. I think Penn State's a really good football team. I do think their game against Michigan was an aberration. It was an avalanche on the road. It's college football. It happens. They rebound and they play, Ohio State. And Penn State deserved to cover this spread, in my opinion, definitely. They were in this game. They possibly could have won it. But the Buckeyes, Ryan Day, they finally threw the ball. And that's what happens when you commit to the pass with Ohio State. 9 times out of 10, you're going to see C.J. Stroud throwing for the 350 yards. You've got the massive play to Emeka Abuka, and then it sets up the run with the Trevion Henderson, the 2 touchdown runs there at the end. And then JTT for Ohio State. We were waiting for either him or Jack Sawyer to become a superstar. well, maybe Jack Stoyer still has something, but right now it's very clear JTT is an absolute beast, and he's going to be playing, I would hope, 70 to 80% of the snaps along with Zach Harrison moving forward. And I thought listen, I understand and I totally get it. If the refs are not going to call holds, that's fine. The refs, I don't think they called a single hold. There were a few plays where Zach Harrison was getting, he was getting choked because he was getting behind the offensive lineman, and the lineman would put his hand up right at Zach Harrison's neck. But again, if you're not going to call holds, okay. Don't call them on any team. Don't be inconsistent. But I also thought Paris Johnson held a little. I thought Matt Jones, Ohio State's guard, had a really tough first half. He was getting beat multiple times in the run game. But listen, you're going to go through games like this. This is what college football is. These are young kids. It's not perfect. You're not going to beat everyone. You know, people were saying it's going to be 42-10. You know, it's just not going to be that. You're going to have to go through some adversity. You know, you're going to have to be down in the fourth quarter. You've got to deal with it, and you've got to come out and win the game. And the bottom line is Ryan Day did do enough, but I am still concerned about his play calling. I'm concerned, you know, a little bit about C.J. Stroud being able to take hits, but I thought he was really good in the second half. So that's going to do it here for this recap. Ohio State, I'm thinking, is going to be ranked second or third. There will be Michigan fans that say Michigan should pass Ohio State based off of this result. There's just simply too many analytics that are going to have Ohio State above Michigan for that to happen. Ohio State's offense is so much more, when it comes to analytics, so much more efficient than Michigan's. When you've got a comparable resume, they're always going to put Ohio State above. And Ohio State's defense is also really good. Although I will say the caveat is this game, I mean, they allowed a lot to Sean Clifford. And to me, Ohio State's defense is a wait-and-see approach, especially the secondary. But you'll take the win on the road. People are going to be angry. I get it, but this is college football. I knew it was going to be a struggle for Ohio State. I said I was close to picking Penn State in an upset, but I said I couldn't do it because Ohio State has too much talent, and that's kind of what happened. We kind of saw that play out. It's what happened, and somehow we got a final score of 44-31. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Everyone have a nice rest of your Saturday watching some of these great 3:30 games.